Welcome to Lantern and Lullaby. I'm so glad you've chosen to spend this quiet winter night here. Before tonight's journey begins, allow yourself to get comfortable. Let the day drift gently behind you and settle into the warmth around you. Tonight, snow is falling beyond a familiar bedroom window, and beside the candlelight, an old book has returned. Perhaps you remember it. Perhaps somewhere in a dream you have already followed its pages into a library of endless shelves, quiet fires, and impossible staircases. But tonight, the library has changed. Rain has become snow, and somewhere beyond the rooms you may remember, a hidden winter wing is waiting to open. So, whenever you're ready, listen to the snow beyond the glass, watch the candlelight fall across the old book, and let its pages open once more. Tonight, the world beyond the bedroom window is disappearing beneath snow. Large flakes drift through the darkness, slow enough to follow for a moment before they vanish beyond the edge of the glass. The road outside has already softened. The rooftops have lost their hard edges. Even the bare branches of the trees seem quieter beneath their gathering white. Inside, the bedroom is warm. The blankets hold the heat close. The room is still, and unlike rain, the snow makes almost no sound at all. It simply falls, one pale flake after another, covering everything that can wait until morning. For now, there is nowhere else you need to be. Only this warm room, this dark winter night, and the endless quiet beyond the window. For a while, you simply watch. Snow gathers slowly along the outside window ledge. A little ridge of white forms against the glass, uneven and soft. Farther away, the few lights still glowing from distant houses have become hazy behind the falling flakes. Nothing moves quickly. A flake turns, another drifts sideways, another disappears into the darkness before reaching the ground. The whole night seems wrapped in something thick and gentle. Even the familiar world outside feels farther away now, not lost, not hidden, only quieted, as though winter has placed a soft hand over everything beyond the room and asked it to rest. You settle a little deeper into the warmth, and the snow continues without needing anything from you. On the bedside table, a small candle burns quietly. Its flame is steady tonight. There is no draught through the room, no rain against the window to stir the air. Only the occasional soft movement of light across the nearby wall. The candle leaves a warm circle across the wood. Beyond it, the bedroom fades gently into shadow. The contrast feels especially comforting tonight. Cold blue darkness outside, soft gold within. Snow and warmth separated by a single pane of glass. You let your attention rest there for a while, on the small flame, on the way it brightens the edge of the table, on the quiet certainty that this room is warm while winter passes outside. And then you notice that the candle is not alone. Beside the candle lies an old book. For a moment, nothing about it seems unusual. Dark cover, worn corners, soft leather reflecting a little of the flame. And yet the longer you look at it, the more certain you become. You know this book. Not in the ordinary way you recognize something kept on a shelf. The feeling is quieter than that, deeper, like recognizing a room from a dream before remembering what happened there. You cannot recall placing the book beside the bed tonight, but that no longer feels strange. Somehow the sight of it belongs here. The candle burns beside it. The snow falls beyond the window, and the book waits between them. Exactly where, perhaps, it always knew you would find it. The mark on the cover is still there, faintly pressed into the dark leather. A circle, perhaps, or a moon, or something that resembles a closed eye resting beneath sleep. You remember never being quite certain. Even now, the shape seems to change when the candle moves. One moment round and complete, the next slightly curved, then almost hidden altogether. But the uncertainty feels familiar too. You have seen this mark before. You have watched candlelight pass across it before. And somewhere behind the memory of that small golden shape is another memory. Tall shelves, distant lamps, rain against impossible windows, a place too large to belong anywhere in the waking world. The thought arrives gently, then settles. You do not need to chase it. The book is here. That is enough. A soft warmth seems to gather around the book. Not enough to disturb the room, not enough to brighten it, only enough to make the candlelight along the cover look deeper than before. The feeling of recognition grows. There was a place once, a library that did not seem built so much as dreamed into being, a place of endless shelves and quiet rooms, of paths that appeared only when they were needed. You remember pieces rather than the whole, a staircase curling upward, a distant fire, a small light waiting patiently ahead. The memories are soft around their edges now, like pictures held beneath water, but the book appears to remember everything. It lies perfectly still beside the candle, warm, patient, as though the journey between its pages has simply been sleeping. The book opens slowly. Its pages settle beneath the candlelight. At first they look ordinary, pale, thick, empty. Then a faint light appears near the center of the first page. Not gold this time, something cooler. A soft blue-white glow like moonlight resting on fresh snow. It spreads gradually across the paper. The candle remains warm beside it, but the two lights do not compete. Gold and winter blue simply rest together. The page brightens, its edges remain visible, its surface remains still. And yet something about the light seems to come from much farther away than the paper itself. You watch. The glow deepens, and the blank page begins to feel less like something meant to be read, more like somewhere waiting to be entered. One snowflake becomes two, then several more. They do not land on the paper, they fall beneath it, far beneath it. The page has somehow gained depth. What first looked like pale light now resembles a distant winter sky seen through an impossibly small opening. Snow drifts through that hidden space, slowly, quietly. Some flakes pass close enough to appear clear for an instant. Others remain tiny points moving somewhere much farther away. You can still see the edge of the page, still see the book resting beside the candle, still hear nothing but the stillness of the bedroom. And yet there is another winter now, one outside the window and one waiting within the book. The second feels deeper, older, and strangely familiar. The room changes so gradually that at first you are not certain anything has happened. The shadows near the walls deepen, the ceiling seems a little farther away. The far corner loses its familiar shape. Nothing disappears, not yet. It simply becomes less certain. The blue-white light from the book spreads across the blankets and reaches the wall opposite the bed. The candle continues to burn, snow continues beyond the window, but the room feels larger now, quieter, as though the ordinary measurements of walls and ceiling are no longer being strictly observed. The feeling is familiar. The soft loosening that comes just before sleep takes a thought and carries it somewhere unexpected. You remain still. There is no reason to resist it. Somewhere far away, you hear the faintest sound, a page turning. The shapes along the wall sharpen, tall vertical lines, dark wood. Then narrow horizontal edges appearing one above another. Shelves. They rise where the wall had been only moments ago. First to the height of the wardrobe, then beyond it, higher, higher still, until their tops disappear into shadow that the bedroom ceiling could never have contained. Books begin filling the empty spaces. Deep greens, faded blues, dark browns softened by age. None bear words you can read from here. They simply settle into place as though they have always belonged. The bedroom has not vanished completely. The candle remains, the snowy window remains. The old book remains open. But behind them, something enormous is returning. A place that feels less discovered than remembered. The window changes next. Its frame lengthens upward. The top rises beyond where the ceiling used to be. Straight edges curve slowly into an arch. The small bedroom window becomes something vast, tall enough now that you must look upward to see its highest point. Snow still falls beyond it, but the view has changed. There is no familiar road, no neighboring roofs, no garden fence. Beyond the glass is only winter darkness and endless drifting white. Snow catches faint blue light as it passes. Some flakes gather against the lower panes, others vanish into the distance. You remember these windows too, not the snow, the scale, the impossible height. The feeling that whatever existed beyond them belonged somewhere between worlds. And now they are here again. For a few moments, both places exist together. The bed is still beneath you, and yet polished wooden flooring stretches beyond it. The bedside candle remains close, and yet more lights are floating somewhere ahead. The old book lies open beside you, and beyond it, shelves rise farther than the eye can follow. Then the bedroom begins to lose its weight. The blankets soften into shadow. The bedside table becomes part of a larger wooden surface. The familiar walls drift away. You do not remember getting up. You only realize that you are standing when the old floor settles beneath you. Warm candlelight reflects across dark, polished boards. Ahead, the library waits. Not unfamiliar, not exactly known, but unmistakably the place the book carried you before. And tonight, winter has arrived there first. The great hall opens before you. It is larger than memory. Bookshelves rise in vast towers on every side. Walkways cross between them at impossible heights. Dark wooden staircases curl upward through pools of warm light. Brass lamps rest along the railings. Candles drift quietly through the air above. Nothing is exactly still, and yet nothing feels busy. The library seems to breathe at the same slow pace as before, alive but resting. For a moment, you simply stand at the edge of the hall. The smell is familiar too. Old paper, polished wood, a distant fire, and underneath it tonight, something colder. The clean, almost scentless air of snow. You have returned. The library does not announce it. It simply seems to know. The enormous arched windows are just as you remember them, but beyond the glass, the rain is gone. Snow fills the darkness instead. Thousands of flakes move through the night at different depths. Some drift slowly against the panes, some twist in little currents farther away. Some are only tiny pale points, disappearing almost as soon as you notice them. A soft white bank has gathered against the base of the lowest windows outside. Frost touches the corners of the glass. The library itself remains warm. No cold enters through the panes. No draft moves through the hall. Winter seems to belong entirely to the world beyond the windows. Close enough to watch, far enough away to make the warmth inside feel deeper. The familiar library has changed, but somehow it still feels completely itself. The snow gives the library a new kind of light. Cool blue from the windows spreads softly across the floor. Warm gold from candles and lamps reaches toward it from the shelves. Where the two meet, the polished wood takes on colors you do not remember seeing here before. Deep brown, faded silver, soft amber, blue-gray shadow. Nothing has been covered or transformed. The library has simply accepted winter into itself. Higher above, brass railings catch pale reflections from the windows. The floating candles seem warmer against the colder light. Even the books appear darker and more sheltered. You begin to understand that this place does not remain the same between dreams. Perhaps it changes while no one is here. Perhaps it changes because someone has returned. Either way, tonight it has something different to show you. The reading alcove is still there, tucked between two tall bookcases, protected from the scale of the hall by a low stone fireplace and deep shadow. The same generous chair waits beside the fire. A blanket rests over one arm, thicker than you remember, soft wool folded twice against the winter night. A small table stands beside it, and once again, something warm sends a thin curl of steam into the air. You stop at the edge of the alcove. There is comfort in knowing that some things have remained exactly where they were needed. The fire burns a little brighter tonight. Outside the nearby window, snow falls through the darkness. For a moment, staying here would be easy. But somewhere deeper in the library, a small light shifts and your attention follows. The staircase rises between the bookcases exactly as memory left it. Dark wood, polished brass, small lamps glowing along the steps. Its curve disappears upward between shelves so tall that the upper landing cannot yet be seen. You remember following this staircase once before. Not every step, not every room beyond it, only the feeling of climbing through a place that seemed to grow larger the higher you went. Tonight, pale snowlight falls across the lower steps from the great windows behind you. The railing catches a thin blue edge. Above, the lamps remain warm and steady. You begin to climb, slowly. Nothing waits impatiently at the top. The library has never asked you to hurry, and whatever has changed since your last dream appears willing to wait a little longer. From the high landing, the library spreads beneath you. The great hall looks different from above, smaller somehow, yet more impossible. Walkways cross from one tower of books to another. Staircases disappear behind shelves. Warm pools of light appear far below. Beyond them, the tall windows hold the snow-filled night like great blue paintings. Some parts of the view feel familiar. A bridge crossing open space, a reading table below, a corridor hidden between shelves, but other parts do not. Farther toward the edge of the library, new lights seem to have appeared, pale ones, cooler than the candles. A staircase climbs where you do not remember there being one, and beyond it, barely visible through the immense architecture, something glints like frost-covered glass. The library has changed while you were away. The candle approaches without sound, a single small flame floating freely through the air, steady, warm, untroubled by the height. It moves toward the landing and slows, then stops. For a moment, it simply hangs there beside you. You remember this too, the little circle of light, the patient way it waits rather than pulls, the feeling that being guided here has never meant losing the choice to stop. Tonight, something about its pause feels almost different. Not surprise, not exactly recognition, more like the quiet acknowledgement of something returning to its proper place. The flame rises slightly, drifts once around the edge of the landing, then turns toward the stairs. It moves ahead a short distance, stops, and waits for you again. Some invitations never need words. The candle leads you through the familiar levels of the library, down one staircase, across a short walkway, past shelves that seem to breathe quietly in the warm dimness. Then the round table appears ahead. You recognize it before reaching it. The dark wood, the small golden flames above, the broad parchment resting across its surface. The map. For a moment, its lines remain still. Shelves, staircases, passages, shapes of rooms that shift slightly whenever your eyes move away. Then the candle settles above the table. A pale line begins to travel across the parchment. Another follows. Something far beyond the familiar part of the library starts to unfold. A staircase appears where there had been none, then a bridge, then room after room, and along the outermost edge of the map, an entire new wing begins quietly drawing itself into existence. The map continues to move beneath the candlelight. At first, the changes are small. A staircase turns slightly. A narrow passage stretches farther than it had a moment ago. One reading room shifts closer to another. The lines do not move quickly. They settle into new positions with the same quiet patience as the library itself. Some of the shapes feel familiar. You recognize the Great Hall, the high landing, the long windows drawn as pale, narrow arches along one side. Even the staircase you have just descended seems to curl across the parchment exactly as it does behind you. The library is enormous, and yet somehow the map remembers every part of it. The floating candle waits above the table. Its flame casts a small golden reflection across the moving lines. For a while, nothing new appears. The library is simply showing you what still remains. Several lines brighten, not strongly, only enough to separate them from the rest. One curves toward a part of the library you remember crossing high above the floor. Another disappears beneath the shelves toward quieter rooms below. A third winds toward a narrow space hidden behind rows of books. The routes are familiar without becoming completely clear. You remember them in pieces. A bridge, a doorway, a room filled with warm light. Places once visited and then allowed to become quiet again. None of the lines ask you to follow them tonight. They glow for only a little while, then soften back into the parchment. Nothing has been erased. Nothing has been lost. The library has simply kept those paths exactly where they were needed, and somewhere among them, another part of the map remains strangely empty. The shelves beyond the table have shifted apart, only slightly, just enough to reveal a corridor beyond them. You remember that corridor, even before you see the doors clearly, the warmer light beneath them, the strange feeling that each one held somewhere completely different on the other side. From here you can see only part of the passage, a dark blue door, a green one farther along, another almost hidden in shadow. Small lines of light rest beneath each threshold. Nothing opens, nothing calls. The doors simply wait as they did before. For a moment, you wonder how many dreams are still resting behind them, how many paths the library has kept without needing to show them again. The floating candle drifts towards the gap, but it does not enter. Tonight, the corridor is only something to remember. One door stands out from the others, white, simple, its edges touched with frost. You remember it too. The frost was there before winter ever reached the great windows. A thin silver tracing around the frame, a suggestion of cold belonging to whatever dream rested beyond it. Tonight, the frost looks almost at home. Snow falls somewhere far beyond the library windows. Winter blue light reaches the corridor, and for a moment, the white door seems as though it might open, but it does not. No warmth appears beneath the handle, no hinge moves. Whatever waits beyond it has already had its turn. The candle remains beside you, then slowly turns away. There are familiar dreams here, but tonight the library is leading you somewhere else. When you look back at the table, the map has changed again. Near its outer edge is a space you had not noticed before, large, empty. The parchment there contains no shelves, no rooms, no staircases, only a quiet stretch of untouched darkness. Then a single pale point appears near its center. Another forms beside it. A thin line joins them. The line divides. One branch moves upward. Another turns sharply away. Slowly, the empty part of the map begins to wake. Nothing is drawn all at once. The library seems to be deciding what should appear. A wall forms, then a corridor, then the suggestion of something much larger beyond them. The floating candle lowers closer to the parchment, and the blank space continues to change. The pale line reaches outward. It begins near the Great Hall, climbs through several familiar levels, crosses a narrow gap, then rises again, higher than any route you remember following. The line continues toward the empty edge of the map. As it moves, more shapes form around it. A staircase, a bridge, several long rooms, a wide space beneath what seems to be glass. Then another cluster of rooms beyond that. The new route does not glow gold like the older paths. Its light is paler, almost silver. Winter light drawn across old parchment. At the very edge, the line finally stops. For a moment, nothing happens. Then an entire section of the map unfolds around it, not added, revealed, as though it had been folded away until tonight. A low wooden sound passes through the hall, not a crack, not a scrape, something softer. The long sigh of old shelves beginning to move. You turn from the table. Two enormous bookcases nearby are shifting apart, slowly. Books remain perfectly still upon them. Candles burn without trembling. The polished floor beneath reflects the movement in long, broken lines of amber. Behind the shelves, there is no wall. Only darkness at first, then a narrow opening. Beyond it, pale light appears, cooler than the lamps around you. The shelves continue moving until a passage wide enough to enter has formed. The floating candle rises from the table. The map has finished showing you the way. Now the library itself is making it real. A staircase waits behind the shelves. You are certain it was not there before. It is narrower than the familiar staircase in the Great Hall, older too. Dark wooden steps rise steeply between two enormous towers of books. Small lamps have been set into the walls at long intervals. Their light is warm, but somewhere much higher above, a cooler glow reaches down between the shelves. The staircase seems to continue toward it. You look back once. The round map table is still visible through the gap. Beyond that, the Great Hall glows exactly as it did before. Nothing behind you has disappeared. This is simply another direction the library has chosen to open. The floating candle reaches the first step, then waits. You follow the candle upward. At first, the library around you still feels familiar. Dark shelves, brass rails, warm lamps tucked between books. Through occasional gaps, you glimpse the great hall below. Then the staircase rises past the highest landing you remember. The familiar views begin to disappear. The shelves change. Their wood becomes darker. The spaces between them wider. Tall, narrow windows appear where you do not remember windows being before. Snow drifts beyond them through deep blue darkness. With every level, the warm glow below becomes farther away, but the staircase never feels cold. The lamps continue ahead. The candle waits whenever you fall behind, and somewhere above, pale winter light grows steadily brighter. The final step opens onto a small landing. Ahead stands a tall wooden arch. It is simpler than you expected. Dark timber, pale stone around its base, narrow panels of glass set into either side. Frost has gathered lightly across their outer edges. Beyond the arch, the library continues, but the atmosphere is different. The light is softer, cooler. More space seems to exist between the shelves, and somewhere beyond the threshold, enormous windows hold nothing but falling snow. There is no door to open, no lock to turn. The passage has already been made ready. The candle floats through first. Its warm flame becomes a tiny point against the pale winter light. You follow, and for the first time tonight, you enter a part of the library you have never seen before. The gallery seems to continue farther than it should. On one side, bookshelves rise from floor to ceiling. Dark wood, deep alcoves, small lamps resting at long intervals. On the other side, enormous windows run almost the entire length of the passage. Beyond them, snow falls through blue-black darkness. There is no road below, no town, no horizon you can clearly make out. Only white moving through night. The gallery feels quieter than the Great Hall. There are fewer candles here, more winter light. The floor is still dark, polished wood, but its reflections are softer. Blue from the windows, gold from the lamps. You begin walking, and the floating candle travels just ahead, its flame mirrored faintly beneath it. The frost is delicate here. It does not cover the windows. It grows only around their edges. Thin white branches curl across the corners of the glass. Tiny crystals gather where one pane meets another. The centers remain clear. Beyond them, snow continues to fall. Some flakes drift close enough to briefly fill the view. Others move far beyond, tiny and almost still. You walk beside the windows for a while. The library remains perfectly warm. No frost reaches the inner wood. No cold touches the floor. Winter stays exactly where it belongs, beyond the glass, close enough to watch, far enough away that every lamp and every dark wooden shelf feels more sheltered because of it. The first alcove is set deep between two bookcases. A comfortable chair rests inside. Beside it, a small reading lamp gives off a low amber glow. A thick folded blanket waits across a footstool. Nothing has been left untidy. Nothing looks recently used. The alcove seems less prepared for someone in particular than simply ready for whoever happens to need it. Farther along there is another, then another, each slightly different. A curved chair, a deeper seat, a little table beside a window, small sheltered places tucked into the enormous gallery. You pass them slowly. There would be no difficulty stopping here, but the candle continues ahead, and beyond the next stretch of shelves, a stronger firelight begins to flicker. The gallery widens suddenly. Bookshelves curve away on either side, and a circular room opens around you. At its center is a low stone fireplace, not built into a wall, set directly into the middle of the chamber, where its gentle flames can be seen from every side. Deep chairs form a loose circle around it. Soft rugs overlap across the dark floor. Bookcases rise along the outer walls. High above them, narrow windows admit the pale blue light of the snowy night. The room is larger than the fireside alcove downstairs, but somehow it feels just as sheltered. The floating candle moves toward the hearth. For a moment, its little flame and the fire below seem to recognize one another. Then it drifts upward. You remain near the hearth for a little while. The fire gives the room a soft center. Orange light moves over the rugs, across chair arms, along the lower shelves. Above, winter light reaches down from the high windows. Blue and gold meet across the room without either one becoming too strong. The snow outside seems brighter from here, not because the storm has changed, because the room around you has grown darker and warmer. A few sparks shift quietly inside the hearth. The rest of the chamber remains still. You begin to understand the new wing a little better. It does not hide winter. It places warmth beside it. One makes the other easier to notice. Outside is the quiet cold of snow. Inside is everything kept safe from it. A short, curved staircase brings you above the room. The balcony follows the circular wall. Books line one side. An ornate railing follows the other. From here, the hearth is small below, a quiet pool of warmth surrounded by empty chairs. The high windows seem closer now. Snow passes beyond them, almost level with you. Farther along the balcony, narrow reading tables have been built into the shelves. Small lamps rest between them. The place feels made for long winter nights, for books opened slowly, for fires allowed to burn down without being hurried. The floating candle follows the curve of the railing. At the far side, it pauses near an ordinary section of shelving, then slips behind it. Behind the shelves is another opening, narrow, easy to miss. Beyond it, a bridge stretches across a tall, open space between two parts of the winter wing. Dark wood forms the walkway. Brass rails run along either side. The structure is enclosed enough to feel safe, but open enough to reveal the library descending far below. Snow-filled windows rise on the outer wall. Warm galleries occupy the opposite side. The bridge seems to connect two different moods. Behind you, firelight. Ahead, something quieter. The floating candle travels toward the center. Its reflection moves along the polished boards beneath it. There is no rush to follow. You step onto the bridge, and the winter wing opens even wider around you. The bridge ends beside a broad enclosed courtyard. At first, it seems almost outdoors. The ceiling is so high that it disappears into darkness. Then you notice the glass. Great panels rise overhead within dark iron frames. Snow moves across them from above. Some flakes land and remain for a moment. Others soften into water and slide slowly down the exterior surface. The courtyard itself is dry, warm enough that the stone paths hold no frost. Bookshelves line the walls between tall arches. Small lamps mark the edges of the walkway, and at the center of the space, dark shapes rise from deep stone beds. Not shelves, not columns, trees. Evergreen trees grow within the courtyard, tall enough that their upper branches reach toward the glass roof. Their trunks rise from deep beds of dark earth bordered by old stone. Bookshelves stand behind them, balconies cross above, warm lamps glow between branches. The combination should feel strange. Trees growing inside a library, snow falling only a sheet of glass away, books kept warm beneath them, and yet nothing about the courtyard feels unnatural. The trees seem as much a part of the winter wing as the shelves themselves. Their dark green needles hold the low golden light. The air carries the faint scent of pine and old wood. The candle moves between the stone beds. Ahead, a narrow path curves farther beneath the branches. You look upward. The roof stretches far above the tops of the trees. Snow has begun gathering across some of the glass panels, thin at first, then thicker where the dark iron frames interrupt its fall. Other sections remain clear. Through them, you can still see flakes descending from the night. The glass separates two winters, one outside, cold, silent, endless, and one here beneath it, warm stone, dark books, evergreen branches, small, patient lights. A droplet forms high overhead where snow has begun to melt. It slides slowly down the outside of the glass, then disappears beyond the frame. The floating candle waits farther along the path. Beyond the evergreens, another archway is visible. The winter wing is not finished with you yet. The wooden path curves between the trees. Dark boards follow the shape of the stone beds, winding gently beneath branches that reach overhead from both sides. The evergreens grow closer here. Their needles catch small pieces of lamplight. Deep green becomes bronze for a moment, then almost black again. The glass roof remains visible in places above them. Snow continues to gather across the outer panes, leaving clear patches where the warmth below has begun to soften it. The library walls are never far away. Shelves rise between the trees, balconies cross above. Small pools of light appear and disappear behind the branches as the path turns. The floating candle travels ahead at an easy pace. Now and then it vanishes behind a trunk, then its warm glow returns further along. There is something comforting about walking through a forest that belongs completely inside a library. No wind, no cold, only pine, books, snow above the glass, and the quiet path beneath your feet. The bench rests in a little hollow between the trees. Simple dark wood. A thick folded blanket lies across one end. Beside it, a low lamp gives just enough light to show the grain of the seat and the soft edges of the nearby branches. You stop. The candle slows too. For a moment, it hangs above the path without moving farther. The bench faces neither the shelves nor the roof. It simply looks into the trees. From here, the courtyard feels deeper than it really is. Evergreen trunks overlap. Warm lights appear between them. Beyond the branches, the windows and bookcases become only small pieces of the library. You sit for a little while. Above, snow passes across the glass roof without sound. Somewhere nearby, a droplet slides slowly down the outside of a pane. The scent of pine is stronger here, clean, quiet, enough to make the rest of the library seem very far away. When you rise again, the candle begins moving. The archway stands where the trees begin to thin. Pale stone surrounds a dark wooden frame. Narrow pieces of glass sit within the upper curve. Frost touches their outer edges, not heavily, only a delicate white tracing that catches the blue light from beyond. Through the opening, the library returns. Shelves, wooden flooring, small lamps. But the atmosphere on the other side feels older than the gallery you crossed before. The light is lower. The shelves stand closer together. The warm glow beneath the evergreens fades behind you as you approach. For a moment, you look back. The trees remain completely still beneath their roof of snow. The path curves away among them. Then the candle passes beneath the arch. Its flame brightens against the darker room beyond. You follow. The air changes slightly, not colder, only quieter, as though this part of the winter wing has been sleeping for a very long time. The shelves beyond the arch are different, taller, narrower, built from wood so dark that some sections seem almost black. The passage between them is just wide enough to walk comfortably. Small brass lamps rest at long intervals. Their flames are low, warm enough to guide you, not bright enough to disturb the quiet. Books fill every shelf. Some are broad and heavy. Others are thin enough to disappear between their neighbors. Their colors have faded with age. Blue-gray, deep green, brown, black. And along a few closed edges, is the faintest trace of white. At first you think it might be dust, then one tiny crystal catches the light. Frost. Only on the books. The shelves remain dry. The wooden floor remains warm beneath the lamps. Whatever winter rests here belongs to the volumes themselves. The candle moves deeper between the stacks, and the frost glimmers softly as it passes. The farther you walk, the more you notice them. Books with pale edges, books whose leather covers hold a fine silver bloom around the corners, books resting beneath the smallest possible layer of frost. None are frozen shut, none look damaged, they simply appear asleep. One volume sits slightly farther forward than the others. Its dark green cover catches the candlelight. A thin line of white rests along the top edge. For a moment, you expect it to open. It does not. The library leaves it undisturbed. Perhaps some stories need winter too, a season in which nothing is asked of them. No page is turned, no journeys begun, only a long, quiet rest between dreams. The thought makes the stacks feel less mysterious, more peaceful. The candle drifts onward. Behind it, the pale edges of the sleeping books disappear into shadow one by one. The ladder moves by itself, slowly. Its small brass wheels travel along a rail fixed high against the shelves. No one stands upon it, nothing pulls it. It simply glides past row after row of sleeping books. The sound is barely there, a soft wooden roll, a faint touch of metal against brass. The candle pauses as the ladder passes, then follows. You walk beside it for several shelves. The ladder continues until it reaches an apparently ordinary section. There, it stops. One side rests beneath a shelf far above eye level. Nothing happens. No book falls. No hidden door opens. The ladder simply waits. The candle rises, not toward the ladder, toward a small opening farther along the passage. A window is visible beyond it. Blue light reaches the floor. The ladder remains behind, perfectly still now, as though it has moved only to draw your attention to this part of the stacks. The passage opens onto a small bay in the outer wall. A single desk stands beneath a very tall window. Dark wood, a simple chair, one shaded lamp, nothing else. Beyond the glass, snow falls heavily through the night. The flakes seem larger from here. Some pass close to the window, others disappear into the blue distance. There is no view beyond them, only darkness and white. The desk is empty, no open book, no papers, no unfinished work. It feels less like a place someone has left, and more like a place waiting to be used when the right story arrives. You stand beside it for a moment. The warm lamp makes a small circle across the polished surface. Blue winter light rests just beyond it. The candle floats near the upper corner of the window. Outside, the snowfall begins to thicken. The snow becomes thicker, not suddenly. The spaces between the flakes simply begin to disappear. The blue darkness beyond the window turns pale. Branches and distant shapes vanish first, then even the sense of distance is lost. For a while, there is only the glass and the storm beyond it, white passing through blue, blue hidden beneath white. The window no longer feels like something looking out into a world. It feels like the edge of the library itself. Beyond it, nothing needs to exist tonight. The room remains warm. The desk lamp stays steady. The floating candle does not flicker. The storm has no power here except to make the shelter feel deeper. You watch until the snow becomes almost complete. Then the candle lowers. It turns back toward the stacks. A different passage has opened between them, and through it, a railing catches the pale light. The passage opens onto another bridge. This one is higher, narrower, and far longer than the bridge you crossed below. On either side rise enormous towers of books. Their shelves continue upward beyond sight. Dark balconies wrap around them at different levels. Warm lights appear here and there within the height. The bridge is enclosed by slender brass rails. Its polished wooden floor stretches toward the second tower. Nothing exists directly beneath it except the library. Levels upon levels, shelves, walkways, pools of light. You step forward. The floating candle moves along the center of the bridge. Outside the nearest windows, the storm still hides most of the night, but through the open interior below, the warmer heart of the library is beginning to appear again. Far beneath you, very far. Halfway across the bridge, you stop. The Great Hall is visible below, much farther down than you expected. Its familiar windows shine blue through the winter night. The old staircases curl between shelves. Small candles move through the air like golden points. The round map table is too distant to see clearly now. The fireside alcove is only a warm glow among the lower shelves, yet the shape of the place is unmistakable. You were standing there not long ago. Now it seems like another world beneath you. The winter wing has carried you higher than you realized. You rest a hand nowhere. There is no need. The bridge feels completely still. The candle waits ahead, and for a while, you simply look down at the library you remember. Not left behind, only below, still glowing, still waiting. Then you continue toward the second tower. The bridge enters directly into the second tower. Inside, the walls curve around you. Bookshelves cover almost every surface. round and round, level above level. At the center, a narrow staircase spirals upward. Its steps are dark wood. The rail is brass. Small lamps are fixed to the shelves at each turn. You begin climbing. The bridge disappears below. With every curve, another ring of books rises around you. There are no windows here, no snowlight, only the lamps, only the quiet sound of your steps, only the candle floating a little farther above. The tower feels enormous from within, perhaps taller than it looked from the bridge. The staircase continues through turn after turn. Then, high above, a pale circle appears, blue light, a window in the ceiling. The candle rises towards it. The staircase reaches a small circular landing. Directly above is the skylight, a single round pane set into dark metal. Snow moves across it. Not resting there for long, the angle is too steep. Flakes appear, slide, disappear. Then more take their place. Blue light fills the little landing, enough to soften the warm lamps below, enough to show a doorway on the far side. You remain beneath the glass for a moment. The storm has eased slightly. Individual flakes are visible again. Behind them, the night looks deeper, almost clear. The candle rises close to the skylight, then lowers towards the doorway. Beyond it is another round room. Not a reading room, something else. Brass glints within the shadows. Glass catches faint points of blue light. The uppermost part of the winter wing is beginning to feel very different from the library below. The next room is circular too. Books line the lower walls, but above them, shelves give way to brass instruments. Long tubes, polished rings, small glass lenses. Objects built to turn, to tilt, to point somewhere beyond the room. None carry markings you can read. They seem old, used carefully, then left exactly where they belong. At the center is another staircase. This one is short. It rises toward a higher opening surrounded by pale glass. The ceiling above is brighter than the room below, blue-black, speckled faintly with moving white. The storm is thinning. The candle circles once above one of the brass instruments. Its reflection moves across the curved metal. Then it turns toward the steps. Whatever waits above feels open in a way the library has not felt before. Not outside, but very close to the night. The staircase brings you into the highest room yet. A great glass dome curves overhead. Dark ribs of metal rise from the circular walls and meet far above. Between them is the winter sky. Snow still falls, but lightly now, enough that the darkness beyond is visible again. Bookshelves occupy the lower walls. Brass instruments stand between them. A long, curved bench follows one side of the room. At the center, the floor is open. Nothing interrupts the view above. The floating candle moves into that space. For the first time, its flame looks very small. The dome makes the night feel enormous. Snow drifts across it, clouds move slowly beyond, and somewhere behind them, faint points of light begin to appear. Stars. Not many, not yet, but enough to make you stop. The library has brought you as high as it can, and now it seems to be asking you to look beyond it. The clouds separate, only a little at first. A narrow, dark opening forms between them. Several stars appear within it, cold, clear, steady. Then the opening widens, more stars become visible. The falling snow passes in front of them, making some seem to blink in and out. The room grows quieter. Even the candle appears still. You look upward through the dome. The stars seem closer from here. Not close enough to touch, not impossibly large, only clear in a way they rarely are from the waking world. For a while, the clouds continue moving apart. The night becomes deeper. Blue gives way to almost black. The stars remain, tiny points beyond the snow. The whole library is somewhere beneath you now, warm, sheltered, full of sleeping books. And above it is this, a winter sky slowly opening. One candle becomes 3, then 5. More warm lights rise slowly from openings around the observatory. They float upward, not quickly, not all together. Each follows its own gentle path toward the dome. Their flames remain small, steady. As they rise higher, perspective begins to change them. Warm points of gold move against the dark sky beyond. For a moment, it becomes difficult to tell where the candles end and the stars begin. Gold below, silver white above, some moving, some perfectly still. The effect is simple and somehow beautiful enough that nothing more is needed. The original guiding candle remains closest to you. It does not join the others. It waits at the edge of the room. The rest continue upward until they seem scattered among the stars. Then they stop. The observatory holds them there, a small sky of its own beneath the real one. The stars begin to disappear, not all at once. Snow moves across the dome in a broad, pale sweep. The nearest stars fade first, then the smaller ones. Cloud returns behind the falling flakes. The floating candles remain, warm points beneath the glass. For a while, they are the only lights above you. Snow gathers briefly along some of the metal ribs, then slides away down the outer curve. The dome becomes a moving pattern of white and blue. The night beyond is hidden again. Yet the room does not feel closed, only sheltered, as though the library has drawn a curtain across the sky. The candles begin drifting downward, one by one, returning to the lower edges of the room. As they descend, a low metallic sound reaches you from somewhere near the wall. Slow, measured, the sound of something beginning to turn. The mechanism occupies almost an entire section of wall, several enormous brass rings, one inside another, each mounted at a slightly different angle. They begin turning slowly, the outer ring first, then the next, then another. Their movement is almost silent, only the softest metal hum fills the room. Small glass spheres sit between some of the rings. They catch the candlelight and carry it briefly before turning away. You cannot tell what the mechanism measures: the weather, the stars, the library itself. Perhaps none of those things, perhaps all of them. The rings continue until their separate movements begin to align. One circle crosses another, then another. For a moment, every ring passes through the same invisible point. The mechanism stops completely. A quiet click follows, not from the rings, from the bookshelves behind them. The bookcase moves inward, only a few inches at first, then farther. A narrow black line appears between the shelving and the wall. The line widens. Cold blue light does not wait beyond it, neither does firelight. There is almost no light at all, only a passage, narrow, old, built directly into the thickness of the observatory wall. The books remain perfectly upright as the entire section turns. The brass mechanism beside it stays completely still. The floating candle moves closer. Its light reaches only a short way inside. Dark wooden panels, pale stone beneath them. Another turn farther ahead. Nothing else can be seen. The observatory behind you remains beautiful. Snow across the dome, warm lamps, brass rings. But the newly opened passage is quieter than all of it. And somehow that makes it harder to ignore. You step through. The candle moves ahead. Its warm light reaches the old walls just enough to guide you. The passage is narrower than anything you have crossed tonight. Dark timber surrounds one side, pale stone the other. The floor slopes almost imperceptibly downward. Behind you, the observatory remains visible through the opening. For one final moment, the glass dome glows blue above the shelves. Snow passes over it. The brass rings stand still. Then the bookcase begins to move. Slowly, the view narrows. The observatory becomes a thin line of blue and gold. Then only candlelight remains. The shelf settles back into place. There is no sound from the room beyond. No stars, no storm, only this hidden passage. The floating candle continues ahead, further into the oldest part of the winter wing, and somewhere beyond the next turn, the library becomes quieter still. The hidden passage continues downward, not steeply, only enough that each turn seems to carry you farther beneath the rooms you have just left. The floating candle remains several steps ahead. Its light reaches the walls in small, warm circles. Dark timber lines one side, old pale stone lines the other. Neither is decorated. There are no books here, no windows, no lamps waiting in alcoves. For the first time tonight, the library feels almost entirely architectural, a space built between the places meant to be seen. The floor bends gently to the left, then straightens. Behind you, there is no longer any sign of the observatory. The storm has disappeared completely. Even the faint blue winter light is gone. Only the candle remains. And with every quiet step, the air seems to become softer, not colder, not warmer, simply more still. As though this passage has been waiting behind the walls for longer than the rooms around it. The glow remains faint for several turns. You see it only when the passage runs straight, a small warmth resting somewhere far ahead. Then another bend hides it. When it returns, it seems a little brighter. The candle continues toward it without hesitation. The walls begin to change. Pale stone gives way to dark wooden panels. Narrow decorative moldings appear around the edges. The floor becomes smoother beneath you. Polished boards gradually replace the rougher timber of the hidden passage. Something about the change feels familiar. Not the corridor itself, but the craftsmanship, the dark wood, the particular warmth of the light. You have seen rooms built like this before, somewhere much earlier in the dream, or perhaps in another dream entirely. The passage makes one final turn. Ahead is a closed wooden door. Light reaches softly from beneath it. The floating candle stops and waits. The door is unfamiliar, and yet the room beyond it does not feel that way. You cannot explain the certainty. Nothing can be seen through the wood. No sound reaches you from the other side. Still, the feeling arrives before the memory does. Tall windows, warm light, a circular rug, a table waiting at the center of a quiet room. You have stood somewhere like that before. The candle rises toward the door. There is no handle movement, no visible lock. The door simply opens inward, very slowly. A narrow line of amber appears, then polished floor, then the curved edge of a rug. The memory sharpens. You recognize the color first, deep red softened by gold, then the dark wood around it. The door continues opening, and a room you had not expected to see tonight waits beyond. You step through. The passage behind you suddenly feels very far away. The room is round. Dark wood follows the curve of the walls. Tall, narrow windows stand evenly around them. A large circular rug fills the center, and upon it rests the same broad wooden table you remember. The chair is there too, empty. Exactly where memory places it. For a moment you do nothing. There are places that become familiar because you visit them often, and then there are places remembered from only once. Places that somehow stay complete. This is one of them. But the light has changed. Before, the windows glowed with something almost like morning. Tonight they hold a softer color: pearl, pale blue, winter white. Snow moves quietly somewhere beyond the glass. The room has changed with the rest of the library, but not enough to become someone else. Before approaching the table, you look towards the windows. Their shape is exactly as you remember: tall, narrow, curving gently at the top. But the warm brightness that once filled them has gone. Beyond them is winter. Snow drifts slowly through a pale blue darkness. It does not fall heavily here. The flakes are smaller, more distant, enough to soften whatever might exist beyond the glass without completely hiding it. Delicate frost touches the outer corners of several panes. Inside, the wood remains warm. The rug remains soft beneath the room. One candle burns against the far wall. The familiar chamber has accepted winter differently from the Great Hall. There, snow made the enormous space feel grander. Here, it makes everything feel quieter, more private, almost hidden from the rest of the library. And perhaps that is why this room has been waiting behind the observatory wall. The table waits in the center of the room. You remember standing beside it. You remember the quiet objects arranged across its surface. You remember wondering why each one had been placed there. Some memories return clearly, others arrive only as feelings. The smooth weight of glass, the warmth of something golden, the small brass key, and a thread of light that once chose a path for you. The chair remains empty beside the table. Nothing moves within the room. No one has been waiting for you. And yet the arrangement feels almost untouched, as though the room has been closed since your last visit. Outside, snow drifts beyond the tall windows. Inside, warm light rests across the old wood. You approach slowly. The floating candle follows. Its flame settles above the edge of the rug, and the objects on the table begin to come into view. The objects have not changed. A small brass key lies near one side of the table. Beside it rests a clear glass vessel. A smooth golden stone catches a faint point of candlelight, and nearby is a small folded shape of pale paper. Nothing glows strongly, nothing moves. They look almost ordinary when left alone. But you remember that they were never ordinary. Each seemed to belong to a different possibility, a different path through the library. Tonight, no choice is offered. The objects simply remain where they are. The floating candle passes slowly above them. Glass catches the flame, brass warms briefly. The golden stone holds the light for a moment longer. Then your attention settles on an empty space near the center of the table. Something used to rest there. The memory arrives before you can name it, a coil of golden thread. The key seems smaller than you remember. It rests flat against the dark wood. Old brass, simple teeth, a narrow, circular bow. Nothing about it suggests importance. and yet you remember watching the golden thread move near it once before. You remember the feeling that every object on this table was waiting for exactly one moment. Perhaps the key already had its moment. Perhaps it has another. The candle lowers. Its flame reflects faintly along the brass. For a second, the key seems warmer. Then the light shifts away. It remains still. You do not reach for it. There is no need. The library has always been better at revealing what matters when the time arrives. Beyond the table, something catches your attention. A familiar dark cover, resting on a small wooden stand near the empty chair. The old book. The book that brought you here tonight. Somehow, it has arrived before you. The old book rests beneath the window, closed, quiet, exactly as it looked beside your bed before the library returned. You do not remember bringing it here. You do not remember carrying it beyond the Great Hall, but the library has never seemed particularly concerned with such details. The candle moves closer. Its light passes across the familiar dark leather. The old mark on the cover remains faint, almost invisible now, and between the pages is something brighter, a narrow golden strand. You remember where it came from. Long ago, during your first journey through this place, the thread followed you home. At the end, it rested between these pages, a bookmark. A final piece of the library carried back into waking until tonight. The strand gives the faintest pulse, then becomes still again. The room seems to wait with you. The thread moves only an inch at first. A narrow strand of gold sliding silently from between the pages. Then another length follows. The book does not open. The cover remains perfectly still. The thread continues emerging. It drops gently over the edge of the wooden stand. But instead of falling to the floor, it rises. A soft curve forms in the air, then another. You remember this movement, the patient drifting, the way the thread never seems pulled by anything. It chooses its own direction. Golden light reflects faintly across the dark leather cover. The floating candle moves aside. For the first time tonight, it seems to give way to another guide. More thread slips free until at last the final end leaves the book. The pages settle completely closed. The golden strand hangs in the air between you and the table, awake again. The thread crosses the space between the book and the table, slowly. Its light is softer than you remember, no brighter than a warm reflection. It reaches the brass key. One loop passes around the narrow bow, then another. The key does not rise, not yet. The thread simply rests around it. Golden light settles across old brass. For several seconds, nothing changes. Then the key gives the smallest movement against the wood, a quiet turn, barely enough to hear. The thread lifts. This time, the key comes with it, only slightly above the table, suspended beneath the golden strand. The floating candle waits at the edge of the room, Two familiar guides, one flame, one thread, and between them, a key whose purpose you still do not know. The thread begins moving toward the far wall. The thread leads towards a narrow section of wall. You had taken it for ordinary paneling, dark wood between two tall windows, nothing carved into it, nothing suggesting a door. The brass key travels beneath the thread. The candle follows farther behind. When the thread reaches the wall, it stops. The key hangs beside a small piece of brass almost hidden within the wood, a keyhole, so small that you would never have noticed it. The thread lowers, the key enters without being touched. One quiet turn, a soft click. The dark panel releases, not outward, it slides sideways into the wall. Beyond it, pale blue light appears, not the blue of open winter sky, something softer, filtered, almost silver. The golden thread releases the key. It settles gently into a small recess beside the opening, and the thread passes through. The room beyond is enormous, not tall like the Great Hall, wide, long, quiet. Rows of low, dark cabinets stretch across the space. Behind them rise bookcases built from pale grey wood, unlike anything elsewhere in the library. Soft glass lamps hang overhead. Their light is neither blue nor gold, something between the two, a winter dusk held indoors. At intervals, narrow windows reach almost to the floor. Snow drifts beyond them. The storm here is gentle again. The archive feels colder in color, but not in temperature. The polished floor remains warm beneath the lamps. Nothing is frozen. Nothing feels abandoned. The golden thread moves along the central aisle. It appears brighter against the paler room. The floating candle follows. You realize that this must be one of the places the map could not show you. Not because it did not exist, because perhaps some rooms wait to be remembered before they can be found. The cabinets are made from hundreds of shallow drawers. Each has a small glass front. Through them you can see shapes resting within. Not objects you immediately recognize. A pressed leaf beneath frost, a tiny feather, a smooth stone touched by pale light, a fragment of dark ribbon, a dried flower still holding a trace of color. None are labeled. Nothing explains why they have been kept. The archive seems to have no need for names. Perhaps these are not objects at all. Perhaps they are the pieces dreams leave behind when they are forgotten. The golden thread passes along the cabinets without stopping. As its light moves over the glass, several drawers briefly brighten, then become still again. You resist the urge to search for meaning. Whatever rests here is sleeping, and tonight you are only passing through. The books here are unlike the sleeping volumes upstairs. Their covers are pale, grey, cream, faded blue, colors of winter sky before morning. They stand neatly along shelves that seem to stretch almost without interruption. There is no frost upon them, no dust. no signs of age. They appear preserved rather than sleeping. The golden thread travels beside the shelves. Every so often, it lifts toward one particular book, then lowers again without touching it. You begin to wonder what the archive holds. Dreams remembered perfectly, dreams waiting for winter, stories that can only be read when snow is falling somewhere beyond the glass. Perhaps the library would answer, but it has never answered questions directly. It only offers another room, another path, another quiet thing to notice. Ahead, the thread turns into a narrower aisle. Tall glass cylinders stand between the shelves. Inside each one, snow is falling. Not heavily, a few flakes at a time. They descend through clear, empty space, reach the bottom, and disappear. Then another flake appears above. Each cylinder contains a different snowfall. Large, slow flakes in one, tiny, powdery snow in another. One holds only a single flake at a time. Another seems almost filled with distant white. The glass itself is warm. No frost forms around the base. No cold escapes into the room. These are not samples of winter. They feel more like memories of it. The hush of a first snowfall, the quiet after a storm, the moment a familiar world becomes white. The golden thread passes among them. Its warm reflection appears briefly in each cylinder, then moves on. The shelves end around a circular opening in the floor. Dark water fills it, perfectly still. A narrow stone border follows the edge. Above, the ceiling rises into a shallow dome. Soft glass lamps ring the room. Their light reaches the water without revealing its depth. You stand beside it. The surface reflects the lamps, the snowy windows, the golden thread. But the reflection seems slightly softer than the objects themselves, as though the water remembers everything only after smoothing away its sharpest edges. The thread crosses above the pool. It does not touch the surface, yet a faint line of gold appears beneath it, a reflection traveling through darkness. The floating candle follows. Another warm point forms in the water. For several moments, there are two journeys, one moving through the room, one moving silently below. A narrow staircase follows the curved wall upward. The golden thread climbs beside the railing. You follow. Below, the still water becomes smaller. The archive shelves spread outward beyond it. Rows of pale books, glass cylinders holding snow, cabinets filled with quiet fragments. From above, the whole room seems arranged around the dark pool, a place built to keep things without disturbing them. The staircase reaches a narrow gallery. There are fewer lamps here. The ceiling slopes lower. Dark beams cross overhead. For the first time since leaving the observatory, the architecture begins to feel less formal, older, closer. The thread moves along the gallery. Ahead, shelves become irregular. Some are fitted beneath sloping beams, others end unexpectedly. The winter archive appears to be giving way to something above it, an older level. or perhaps a forgotten one. The next landing is small. The ceiling slopes sharply above it. Heavy wooden beams cross from wall to wall. Books have been fitted wherever space allows. Short shelves beneath the roof, tall shelves between support posts, stacks placed carefully within deep recesses. There is no grandeur here, no enormous window, no sweeping staircase, and somehow the change feels comforting. The library has become smaller again, closer to the scale of an ordinary room. A narrow window sits beneath the roofline. Snow passes beyond it. The glass carries only the faintest blue light. The golden thread moves across the landing, then pauses. For the first time since waking inside the circular room, it becomes completely still. Ahead are two narrow passages. One leads upward, the other disappears behind the roof beams. The thread waits between them. The golden thread rises. It takes the narrower staircase. The steps are old, dark wood worn smooth through years that may never have existed. You follow beneath the sloping roof. The floating candle comes behind now. Its light throws long, quiet shapes across the beams. The staircase turns once, then again. Below, the winter archive disappears. There is no longer any sense of the enormous library beneath you. Only timber, books, a few small lamps, and snow occasionally visible through tiny roof windows. The climb is not difficult, it simply feels private, as though these rooms were never designed to impress anyone. Near the top, the golden thread slows. Warm light appears around the next turn. Not candlelight, something softer. The glow of a room prepared for the night. The thread moves towards it, and beyond the final stair, the oldest attic levels of the library wait in silence. The final stair brings you into a room beneath the roof. It is smaller than almost anywhere you have been tonight. No balconies rise above it. No distant shelves disappear into darkness. The ceiling slopes low beneath heavy wooden beams. Books fill shallow shelves wherever the walls allow. A narrow rug stretches across old floorboards. And near the far side of the room, warm light gathers around a bed. The golden thread enters first. It slows immediately. The floating candle follows behind you. For once, neither guide continues toward another doorway. There is no doorway, no hidden arch, no staircase waiting beyond the room. Only a small roof window filled with snow, a low fire glowing somewhere beneath the eaves, and the bed prepared beneath thick winter blankets. You understand without needing to be told. The library has finally stopped leading you somewhere. It has brought you here. The bed fits perfectly beneath the slope of the roof. Its wooden frame is simple, dark, old enough to belong naturally among the beams. Thick blankets cover it, layers of wool in soft grey, cream and faded blue. Several pillows rest against the headboard. Nothing is overly arranged, nothing feels untouched. The bed simply looks ready. Beside it stands a small round table. A ceramic cup sends a thin curl of steam upward. A low lamp rests beside it. Beyond the bed, the roof window shows only snow and blue-black night. You move farther into the room. The floorboards give one quiet sound beneath you, then settle again. The golden thread drifts toward the bedside. The candle follows more slowly. And for the first time since entering the winter wing, the thought of continuing farther does not occur to you. There is nowhere else that feels necessary. The fire is smaller than those elsewhere in the library. Only a few pieces of wood burn behind the iron grate. Their glow reaches across the nearest floorboards, enough to warm the room, not enough to brighten every corner. The shelves beneath the roof remain mostly in shadow. Books become quiet shapes between the beams. Now and then, one piece of wood settles. A few small sparks move upward, then disappear. Nothing else disturbs the room. You remain near the fire for a while. Its warmth feels different here. Not part of some grand library chamber. Closer to the warmth of an ordinary bedroom on a winter night. Outside the roof window, snow continues to fall. Inside, the fire asks nothing except to be allowed to burn slowly. The golden thread hovers near the bed. The candle waits nearby. Both seem content to remain still. The roof window is close enough to watch from the bed. Snow passes above the glass at an angle. Some flakes move quickly across the pane, others drift slowly enough to follow. A thin white layer has gathered along the outer frame. The center remains clear. Beyond it is only night. No towers, no landscape, no distant lights. The library seems to have carried this room somewhere beyond even its own windows. You settle beneath the blankets. Warmth gathers around you. The little fire remains visible across the room. Its glow touches the lowest beam. The bedside lamp forms a smaller circle of light nearby. Above, snow continues traveling through the darkness. For a while, you simply watch it. One flake, then another, then another, each passing beyond the glass without sound, exactly as the snow did outside your bedroom before any of this began. The golden thread lowers beside the bed. Its light has become very soft, almost no brighter than the fire reflected across polished wood. It drifts above the bedside table. One curve settles, then another. The strand does not fall completely. It hangs just above the surface, a loose golden coil. Quiet now. Whatever purpose brought it through the winter archive seems complete. You remember how confidently it moved before, across the table, around the key, through the hidden panel, up the old stairs. Now there is no direction left to choose. The thread simply rests. The candle floats closer. For several moments, golden strand and small flame remain side by side. Two tiny points of warmth beneath the dark roof. Then the candle moves toward a narrow shelf beside the bed. The thread stays where it is, no longer guiding, only keeping you company. The candle lowers gently. Its base reaches the brass holder, and for the first time tonight, it stops floating. Nothing dramatic happens. The flame remains exactly as it was, small, steady, warm. Only now it belongs to the room. A candle beside a bed on a snowy night. The change feels strangely final. You remember following that light through enormous halls, up staircases, across bridges, behind moving shelves. It never hurried, never pulled. It simply waited whenever you needed it to. Now there is nowhere left for it to wait ahead. Its journey has ended beside yours. The golden thread rests nearby. The little fire continues burning. Outside, the snowfall softens further, and the attic room begins to feel less like somewhere hidden at the top of an impossible library, more like somewhere you have always known how to sleep. Somewhere beneath you is the winter archive, the still pool, the pale shelves, the glass cylinders holding their private snowfalls. Below those are the observatory and its great dome, the sleeping stacks, the evergreen court, the long gallery. And farther still, the great hall you remembered from before. You cannot hear any of them now. Perhaps the library has grown quiet for the night. Perhaps it was always this quiet from here. The scale of everything beneath the attic room feels almost impossible to imagine. Thousands of books, hundreds of lamps, bridges crossing open darkness, staircases climbing between levels, all of it resting beneath one small room. You lie beneath the sloping beams. The thought does not make the room feel high, it makes it feel protected. As though the whole library has settled beneath you, holding the night, keeping everything that does not need your attention far away. Outside, the storm has almost finished. The flakes are fewer now. Larger spaces of darkness appear between them. Snow remains across the outer roof, a smooth white layer beyond the lower edge of the window, but very little is still falling. One flake crosses the glass, then nothing for several seconds. Another appears, turns once, disappears. The silence feels deeper because of it. No wind reaches the room, no branches scrape the roof. The little fire burns steadily. The candle beside the bed hardly moves. You watch the spaces between the snowflakes become longer. The night does not feel empty, only settled, as though winter itself has grown tired. Somewhere beyond the roof, the library's strange world remains hidden beneath white. But there is no reason to see it, not anymore. Tonight has become small enough to fit inside this room. The attic seems to draw closer around you. Not physically. The ceiling does not lower, the walls do not move. But the darker corners lose their importance. The shelves beyond the bed disappear into shadow. The far side of the room becomes only firelight and beams. Your attention narrows naturally. The window, the candle, the blanket, the small coil of golden thread. Everything beyond them begins to feel distant. Even the library beneath the floor no longer seems enormous. It becomes something remembered rather than something surrounding you. A staircase, a blue window, a floating flame, a room of pale books, pieces settling into the same soft place where dreams usually go when they are ending. The candle remains beside the bed. The golden thread gives one faint pulse, and somewhere within the quiet, you hear the softest possible sound, a page turning. The book is there, closed upon the small shelf. You did not see it arrive, but that no longer surprises you. Its dark leather cover catches only a little light. The familiar mark at its center is almost hidden. The book looks exactly as it did before tonight began. Old, patient, impossible to place within any ordinary memory. The golden thread stirs beside the bed. One end lifts, then the rest follows. Slowly the coil unravels, not with the certainty it showed in the archive. There is no urgency now. The strand moves toward the book as though returning somewhere familiar. It reaches the shelf, passes across the dark wood, then stops beside the closed pages. The candle remains still, the fire remains low. Outside, only a handful of snowflakes continue falling. The book waits, and so does the thread. The first part of the thread disappears between the pages, then more follows. The strand grows shorter. Its soft light moves slowly across the shelf. Nothing pulls it. The book remains closed. The thread simply returns. One curve disappears, then another, until only a short, golden length remains outside. It settles over the lower edge of the pages. A bookmark once more, exactly as it rested at the end of your first journey. For a moment, the golden line shines warmly. Then its brightness fades, not completely, just enough to become something that could almost be mistaken for ordinary thread. The book has taken back what it carried here, or perhaps the library has returned a piece of itself to the book. Either way, the journey feels complete. The candle burns beside you, the fire settles lower, and the room begins to change. At first, the change is almost impossible to notice. The roof window seems wider, less angled. The beam above it becomes darker, then softer. You continue watching. The frame gradually straightens. The sloping glass becomes vertical. Snow still moves beyond it. The same blue-black night remains outside. But the window no longer belongs beneath a roof. The wall around it begins to feel familiar, flat, ordinary, close. The heavy attic beams remain overhead for a little longer, then their edges begin dissolving into shadow. The low shelves beside the bed become less distinct. Nothing vanishes suddenly. The library simply loosens its hold on the room, just as your bedroom loosened its hold when you first arrived. The journey is turning itself around, slowly, quietly, without asking you to wake. The ceiling returns, not all at once. First a familiar corner, then the line where wall meets plaster. The oldest beams of the library soften until they are only shadows. The shelves beneath them disappear. The little fire is gone. In its place is the warm darkness of the bedroom. The bed remains beneath you. The blankets feel the same. Perhaps they always were the same. The bedside table stands where the small attic table had been. The candle rests upon it. The old book lies beside the flame. Beyond the window, snow continues falling. There is no moment when one room clearly becomes the other. For several breaths, both seem possible. A bedroom beneath an ordinary ceiling, an attic hidden above an endless library. Then the balance shifts. The familiar room becomes stronger. The library becomes memory. And still, you do not feel as though you have left it. The bedroom has returned. The same window, the same quiet walls, the same darkness beyond the edge of the candlelight. Snow still rests along the outside ledge. The road beyond is hidden beneath white. Distant houses remain softened by the falling flakes. Perhaps no time has passed at all. Perhaps the library existed entirely between one snowflake and the next. The thought is impossible to measure, and unimportant now. You are warm. The room is still. The old book rests beside the candle exactly where you first noticed it. Only one thing has changed. A thin golden thread extends from between its pages. The smallest piece of the dream left visible. Proof, perhaps. Or simply another thing that will feel impossible to explain in the morning. You do not need to decide. The snow continues. The book remains closed. The thread brightens once, very gently. Warm light travels along the short strand, from the edge of the book, toward the place where it disappears between the pages. Then the glow begins to weaken. Gold becomes amber. Amber becomes only a faint line against the dark leather. The thread does not disappear. It remains. But whatever magic moved through it tonight has grown quiet again. The book seems heavier now, more ordinary. Its cover no longer holds warmth beneath the candlelight. The mark at its center fades almost completely into the leather. Perhaps this is how the library closes, not by locking doors, not by extinguishing its lamps, simply by allowing the things that remember it to become still. The thread rests between the pages, waiting, just as it did before, and you realize that waiting here may be what it was always meant to do. The candle has grown shorter, its flame remains steady, but the circle of light around it has become smaller. The far wall returns to shadow. The old book becomes a dark shape beside the flame. Only the page edges catch a little warmth. Outside the window, the snowfall has almost stopped completely. A few flakes remain, moving slowly through the blue darkness. The bedroom is quieter than before, or perhaps you have simply become more aware of the quiet. There is nothing left to follow. No distant staircase, no hidden room, no candle waiting ahead, only this one beside the bed. The library has returned you exactly where it found you, and it has left the night almost unchanged. The candle flame moves once, then becomes still. Its light feels warm enough to rest beside, small enough not to keep you awake. Only a few flakes remain. One crosses the window slowly, another follows farther away. Then the darkness beyond the glass becomes still. Snow covers the rooftops, the road, the bare branches. Every familiar shape has been softened beneath white. Nothing moves outside. No lights change. No footsteps cross the untouched snow. The whole world seems asleep. You watch for another flake. One appears eventually, small, almost invisible. It drifts through the upper corner of the window, then disappears. After that, the sky remains empty. The storm is over, but its quiet remains, deep, soft, complete. The room holds the same stillness, the candle, the book, the blankets. Everything seems to have reached the same place. Nothing waiting to happen, nothing needing to change, only winter night. The book seems different now, not changed, only asleep. Its dark cover lies completely still beside the candle. The golden bookmark no longer glows. The abstract mark on the leather is almost impossible to find. You remember the first time you saw it tonight, the strange certainty that the book had returned, the page filled with winter light, snow falling somewhere beneath paper, shelves forming through the bedroom walls. All of it now feels very far away, and yet the memory remains unusually clear. The great hall beneath snow, the evergreen trees under glass, the observatory beneath the stars, the pale winter archive, the hidden attic room. Perhaps by morning those details will soften. Dreams usually do, but the book will still be here. And somewhere between its closed pages, a single golden thread will remember the path, even if you cannot. The night has become very simple again. A warm bed, a quiet quiet window, a candle burning low, a book that no longer asks to be opened. There are no new paths appearing, no distant lights waiting to be followed, no doors hidden in the walls. And that feels exactly right. The library was never somewhere you needed to remain forever, only somewhere that opened when sleep made enough room for it. Tonight, it opened beneath snow. Tomorrow night it may be gone, or changed again, or waiting exactly as you left it. There is no need to know. The library knows how to keep itself. The book knows how to find you. And the golden thread knows the way home. For now, every journey can rest. The candle burns quietly. The snow lies still beyond the glass, and the room grows softer around you. The candle remains visible for a little while longer, a small, warm flame beside the sleeping book. Beyond the window, winter holds the world beneath white. Nothing moves. Nothing calls you back. Your thoughts become slower. The edges of the room become less important. The window softens. The candle becomes only a warm point. Even the book begins to disappear into shadow. Somewhere, impossibly far away and impossibly close, a library rests beneath the same winter night. Its great windows are blue with snow. Its fires are burning low. Its evergreens stand quietly beneath glass. Its pale books remain undisturbed. And high beneath the roof, an empty bed waits in a room that now knows you. Perhaps the library has closed. Perhaps it never closes at all. Perhaps it simply waits in the quiet place between waking and dreams. There is no need to decide tonight. The snow has stopped. The book is sleeping. And now, so can you.